Okay, another crude YouTube video done by me holding my smartphone and trying to paint at the same time. That's just the way it is. So I want to talk a little bit about the color chart, which is above the photo. When you do it, make sure you don't overwhelm the red with either too much yellow, which is going to result in an orange color like here, or too much purple. I had to do these over again because they had more blue than red. So you might have to fine tune it on another piece of paper before you plop it down into the square. So now I'm going to go to put that aside, and I'm going to go to the drawing, which you all should have done. If it's not accurate, it doesn't make any difference. This isn't a drawing class. This is now to teach you about different kinds of reds. So the way I'm going to do this is apple by apple, and I'm going to let each apple dry before I go to the next one. I don't want the edges to mush into each other, because then you're not going to see the lovely red against the very dark red in here if everything mushes together. So start with one apple, let it dry, go to another one, and so on and so forth. Those of you who are new to watercolor, you can help it along by using a hairdryer. I'm going to start with the big one in the middle just to get it centered, and it's got the most color of the others, and it's really an alizarin crimson that has probably maybe a phthalo blue. So let's see what happens. I'm going to get my chart, and I'm going to see which colors. Yeah, it's somewhere up in here between the phthalo blue and just the straight alizarin. Now, those of you who've had painting experience, you probably know some of the techniques. Those of you who don't, you can follow along with me, and you can either try it and see how far you get. Don't get frustrated. It's all about practicing over and over again. So I'm mixing up my dark red, and I'm going to put a little bit in there. It's almost too dark, but oh well. And then here it's really dark. I'm going to come back with some black. And then I'm going to rinse out my brush. And I think I'm going to go to some regular alizarin. I'm going to put it right here in the middle. Don't pay attention to those words. This person who did this photo would probably not be very happy if he knew or she knew that we were using it. And then I'm going to rinse my brush. I'm going to let it set for a while. And then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to blend these out. I'm rinsing my brush again. And then down below, it's a different color than down here and up here. So I'm going to see what I can do about that. And then I'm going to put that in here. Oops, it ran. All right, so what happens around here? Well, you can leave, there's a hard edge here, so you can just leave that. And then when it dries, you can come back to it and put in kind of a mucky, I don't know what it is, kind of a green ochre color. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to come in with some black or phthalo blue, and I'm going to put in this line here. It's really hard for me to do this and look at the paper and make sure that my phone is filming it. As you know, some of you who've taken my classes, I've screwed up here and there. If my housemate were here, he would film it, but he never seems to be around when I need him. I'm going to darken this a bit. All right, so now I've done one. I'm going to wait for it to dry, and then I'm going to go over to the one on the left. This one. It's a little different color, and there's some yellow, but I'm not going to pay attention to the yellow. I'm just going to make that a lighter color. I mean, those of you who've done this, if you want to try it, now I'm moved over to the cadmium, and I'm going to put some cadmium here. Oh gosh, this is really tricky. Okay, and I'm going to put a little cadmium with maybe a little phthalo or ultra over in here. And then this gets dark again in the middle, so I'm going to come in with my cad and phthalo, make it darker. And then I get to a point where I have to wait. And I'm going over the basket. Oh well. And I'm going to wait. All right, so I'm going to pretend that I've waited. And then I'm going to rinse my brush and do the same thing here that I did on the previous apple. I'm pulling the paint carefully, not that carefully. And more cadmium there. And then I'm going to leave a little here because this is dark, really dark. And I have a little bit over here to fill in. The very top of this apple has a light area, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to pretend that I've waited, rinse my brush, and try and come in very lightly to get that. I didn't wait long enough, but because I don't want to have this YouTube thing run for 20 minutes. All right, so this is what you're going to be doing, apple to apple. And this apple here is the reddest of all. So that's really got cadmium with some yellow in it. And then they're all different variations. But the main thing is to try and pull some of that paint, get your paint down, and then make sure your brush is rinsed, but not real wet, to pull the paint over. Otherwise, it's all going to run together. You do have to wait a little. And then when you go back, when everything is dry, you can fill in these. I'm going to pretend that this is dry. Fill in this area. And there are a few. There's one, two, three. There's three that are like that. And then the last thing you'll do is you'll put your stems on when everything is dry. As for the basket, I'm going to let you decide what you want to do. That's really not part of the project, but you can just put a wash over it, or you can just do lines, or if you really want to get into it. And I think I said this in the email, if you do this quickly and you want to try it in a different color, even if it's not realistic, do that, because it's a good way to learn about color hues and all the variations. Okay, that's it.